one of the best journalists that we were able to come across and connect with in 2024, and we now are proud to call a friend, is James Lee. When I think about the interviews that Jen gave when she ran for Congress in 24, I thought her interview on Breaking Points with James Lee was as good an interview, a good of a segment as any that was done, and his commentary was equally impressive. And so James obviously has his own channel, 5149, which we hope you have subscribed to and support. And he brought something to our attention that I was not aware of. This is a very telling story about what we're up against on the domestic side. Now, I have said that on the international side, the biggest issue we face is the Zio state. On the domestic side, it's private equity.
Be closing its bakery doors today. Just to say that out loud is completely surreal. And this isn't how I thought the story would go. I thought Sprinkles would keep growing and be around forever. I thought it was going to be my legacy.
Why would you think that? If you wanted it to be your quote unquote legacy, then why did you sell it for tens of millions of dollars to private equity?
Exactly. I saw her video. I didn't see his take. I saw her actual video and I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, but I felt the same way about, when we had Ben Cohen on and he was sort of remorseful about that, how Unilever is been handling Ben and Jerry's and that there's no control over it. But then I think the same thing to some extent. It's like, what do you think happens when you sell to these giant conglomerations? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. And now this is, again, a reflection of, oh, I thought they were going to make it better. No, they're not going to make it better. And I will say to anyone who is an investor, who has any money to their name, you do not have to be greedy. Greed is a choice. It is not a prerequisite. It is not a requirement. And as somebody who is an investor and also involved in commercial real estate, you can make choices about who you get involved with. Altruism does exist, but that's by choice. If you choose to be a greedy fuck, then you're going to get what you have coming. And in the case of this, oh my God, I cannot believe today we closed the doors. I'm millions upon millions of dollars richer, but fuck my employees. Who cares? This is insane. This is insane. But kudos to James for picking this off because I wasn't even aware of this place.
Oh no, I saw her little clip, but yeah, I didn't. Yeah, let's see what he says.
Phil, private equity only makes things worse.
Yeah.
Only.
Or you do see that Phil's profile.
Their entire business model is to strip mine businesses until they die. So while you got your bag, hundreds of Sprinkles employees were given only 1 day notice of termination with no severance right before New Year's.
See, that I didn't know. I only heard her complaining. So that's great, lady. That's just great.
Oh, what should I do? What should I do? I don't know. Give him $1,000. Call it a day. Can you? Oh, stupid, rich bitch. This is again.
Well, she made a fortune, obviously.
Yeah, she made a fortune, and then they decided, okay, now that we don't have to deal with these people anymore, now we could just cut them off. So let's just cut them off.
Isn't that the whole point of private equity? Isn't that the whole point of what they do? I mean, didn't everyone see Pretty Woman? They buy companies and then take them apart for parts and get rid of them and put them out of business. Like they're not there to run the business. They're there to make as much money off of it in the shortest amount of time. And they only care about the current quarter.
Yeah, no, everything is about shareholder value.
Right.
Nothing about private equity has anything to do with the greater good.
No.
It never has. It never will.
That's good.
They're in private equity. That's a great one, Nika. Great job. Therein lies the rub. If you look at BlackRock, if you look at State Street, and you look at Vanguard, I mean, you want to talk about selling a country off for parts. Look at what BlackRock is doing in Ukraine. That's a perfect example. If you want to know, to me, the real conspiracy about the war in Ukraine is that this has gone on for at least 3+ years longer than it needed to. And maybe it's coming to an end. I'm still not convinced. Point is, when private equity got involved, you don't ever want it to end. The goal is to get your hands on as many assets as possible and make as much money as possible for the rebuilding purpose. Same thing is going on with Kushner's people in Gaza and what will soon be the West Bank. It's the same thing. This all repeats itself. It's clear as day what the game plan is. So when this teary-eyed shitlib from the Upper East Side probably is saying, oh, I can't believe this happened. What did you think was going to happen? Your payday came in. This is the other thing about private equity that makes absolutely no sense. They're going to run this brand into the ground.
Of course.
So
well, they did, obviously. So that's why they're going out of business now. They come in, they siphon out what they can, they screw the employees, and they get out, and they do just fine. They write off whatever their losses are. They don't give a crap.
If you want to know who the true enemies of America are, find somebody who supports private equity. Find somebody who thinks that that's good. I know plenty of them. I do, because it's my line of work. I have to deal with these people. So I know the people who actually hate America, who truly hate it, because for them, the only thing that matters is making money. And if that means that I have to crush people in the process in order to make that money, oh, they will do it gleefully. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Well, we said that from the beginning. We said from day one when they went into Ukraine, why did they go in? Why was Russia involved? Because the United States was trying to drag Ukraine into NATO. For what purpose? Because there are trillions upon trillions of dollars in natural resources in the western part of that country, and we want it. Just like we're trying to do in Venezuela right now. The only difference is that Zelensky is a puppet and Maduro isn't. And that is where it begins, and that's where it ends. Period. Now, you can make the argument that Ukraine is white and Venezuela isn't, and that plays a role too. Maybe it does. But in the end, it's all about money and power. Period. There's no secret here.
That's not why Russia is in Ukraine. That's why we are funding Ukraine. Russia is in Ukraine. No other country goes around the world creating wars for profit. No one else does that. Okay. Russia is in Ukraine in the areas where there's Russia-speaking people, because for many years, the Nazi sector of Ukraine was basically apartheiding the Russian speakers in the eastern part and in the regions that are Russian speaking. And there was a lot of conflict, and there was a lot of very ethnically cleansing type of things going on. And then those regions voted, mind you, to be part of Russia. And then the Ukraine, backed by us, said, no. And so that, coupled with that, NATO is, well, I don't even know why it exists other than for profit, but that was the red line. Ukraine is not to be a part of NATO. That's what they've been saying from the beginning. And if they just let the people go where they wanted to go, that they voted to go and be part of Russia because they speak Russian and they'd rather not be ethnically cleansed from a Nazi factor in their own country that we made up when we drew lines. So that's why Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia didn't invade Ukraine so that their military industrial complex could make millions of dollars. Russia invaded Ukraine for the reasons that I just said. And then we propagated that by saying we'll support Ukraine and kept it going as long as we could so that our MIC could make a fortune. That's us. And then we had our UK lapdog, Boris Johnson, go in there and make a complete mess of everything on our behest. So that's why this is going on. This isn't going on because Russia is trying to profit off of the military industrial complex.
This is right before they closed their comment section. Employees were going off. One day notice is crazy. Just used us for the holidays and tossed us aside. Thank you for the 1 day notice of unemployment with no severance. 1 day notice of losing my job. How will I take care of my 5 kids now? Cupcakes are sweet. 1 day layoff notices are not. Yikes. What a bold way to celebrate 20 years and ring in the new year. That wasn't very sprinkle standard of y'all to get rid of us and only give us 1 day notice. Now, the only way to stop this is to stop patroning businesses that are owned by private equity. This is a list compiled by the Private Equity Stakeholder Projects. It's a list of all the major businesses that are owned by private equity. I'm sure you'll recognize a lot of the names on here. A good place to start your research.
All right. So let's see if we can get that name. Okay, guys. So if you can write this down, it's the Private Equity Stakeholder Project. So if you guys want to check out that website, that is a great place to go to find out exactly what companies that you may be currently patroning that you shouldn't anymore. The only
Someone keeps
way,
asking if they missed the Nick Shirley stuff, and I don't even know what that is, but no, we haven't talked about it yet.
no,
Stop
no,
panicking.
we'll be getting to that shortly, guys.
Okay.
So this is the website that you're going to want to go to find out exactly where those companies are making their money. That's very important. So keep that in mind. And we'll finish out with Mr. Lee. Stop calling me Shirley.
Yes, I'm serious.
Here, a
Stop
good
calling me
place to
Shirley.
start your research. This is going to be a bold goal, but let's make 2026 the year we end private equity.
I would say that that is beyond a reasonable goal. However, do I think that we can create much more awareness about private equity and how that is truly the end game of the broken capitalist system? That is truly what is driving the end of this current economic predicament that the overwhelming majority of the country is stuck in? If I could point my finger at one aspect of capitalism that has ruined it for everybody, private equity is at the top of the list, period. Because it doesn't do anything. It doesn't create anything. You know, the argument for the free market capitalist system, which always had valid components to it, is this idea that it was all about innovation. It was all about creativity. It was about how can I get the most value out of my ability. I agree with that system with a legitimate social safety net. However, there is no excuse for private equity because they're not based in anything that involves innovating, creating, developing, and enhancing. They are there in the truest sense to be a vulture, to pick at a dead carcass. That's
You know
what
what they are?
they're there to do.
They're parasites.
Yeah.
They're parasites.
Yes.